Stories about civil rights and justice are very popular on Weibo. And a recent American news story about a 56-year-old man who was compensated $13.2 million after spending 11 years in prison for a murder that he didn't commit attracted a lot of comments. According to the Weibo post, David Ayers was arrested in 1999 and was accused of beating to death a 76-year-old woman. Ayers continued filing appeals while serving a life prison term and finally prevailed when DNA tests proved that a single pubic hair found in the victim's mouth did not belong to him. Now, the two detectives in charge of the murder case were found to have fabricated or withheld evidence that proved Ayers' innocence, and Ayers was compensated with $13.2 million. Now, a lot of Weibo users applauded the story. Many used it as an example of why the death penalty should be abolished, while others commented on what they perceived to be the better American justice system. And now let's take a look at some of their comments.
This is a great reason why the death penalty should be abolished. An eye for an eye doesn't work, especially if you wrongfully convict someone. In America, the way the law treats regular citizens is very different from the way the law treats big corporations. You can really get a sense of who the real masters of the country are. China should learn from this. Of course, monetary compensation is only the first step. The wrongfully convicted person should also get training and equal job opportunities. The most important thing is that the wrongfully convicted person is able to receive comparable compensation. It's better than to have taxpayer money going into the pockets of corrupt officials.
And there is a good reason for them to admire the American justice system. Now, it's rather difficult to get an appeal in China and dangerous to petition to a higher government authority to lodge a complaint. Now, we'll take, for example, a story that happened in early 2013 that got a lot of media buzz. When a woman suspicious of her husband's bodily injuries from a stay at a local police station tried to lodge a complaint in Beijing, the highest authority in the country. However, she was intercepted on her way to Beijing by people from her local government, who then sent her to a labor camp for a year and a half. Now, after she was released and fearing that she would try to petition again to a higher authority, the local government placed her under house arrest and locked her up in an abandoned morgue for 3 years. She's been confined to a wheelchair ever since being paralyzed from the waist down after her time at the labor camp. And her biggest concern is for her 12-year-old son that went missing when she was abducted on her way to Beijing. And when Chinese people were made aware of the story, their reaction was that of outrage. A lot of expletives were used, but a key point that people pointed out was that unlike the American system, where responsibility can be pinned down to individuals who are then held accountable, in China, accountability is difficult to determine. For example, in the case of the woman who was locked up in the morgue, it's difficult to determine exactly who gave the order for her abduction and whether or not they are in cahoots with other powerful cadres to protect each other's interests. Now, the legal system's inability to protect the rights and safety of the general public, especially when the interests of a regular citizen comes into conflict with those of government officials, are a big problem in China, and something that a lot of people are very vocal about. Okay, now let's take a look at some more comments from Chinese internet users.
If taxpayers are not able to keep an eye on the government, then who knows what could happen? No matter how much money, he won't be able to buy back 11 years of his life. 11 years for 13.2 million. That's more than 1 million a year. I think it was worth it. I think he must have been mentally scarred from the ordeal. The American government is too weak. They should have compensated him based on the country's minimum salary, and then introduced a new law titled Wrongful Conviction Compensation Regulation. If this was in China, the guy would be lucky to be let out alive. Compensation? Don't even think about it.
China's new leadership has said that power needs to be put into a cage. Now, some people believe that one of the main reasons why China is having such a hard time with corruption is because some government officials often wield tremendous power within their domain of influence. However, some internet commenters brought up an interesting point. Now, if power was to be put into a cage, then who gets to hold on to the key? Obviously, it can't be the same interest group as those who are inside the cage. And that is something a lot of people are wondering about.